Hello everyone, semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and a few other odds and ends. Today we are going to talk about a couple of viewer questions, one of which is, I've watched your journey, Bob, it's really great, but how do I get started? So we're going to cover a few items on how to get started. And then at the end of the video, we're going to talk about how to reduce and get off your blood pressure meds the way I did it. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on TV. This is not medical advice. But I'll tell you how I did it and how I think you should do it as well. Before we get into this, don't forget, today is Wednesday, but you're going to see this on Thursday. So don't forget, the Two Crazy Ketos 11/11 live stream for veterans is tomorrow. It starts at 9 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget to tune into that. If you're only going to watch a little bit of it, I might suggest you tune in about 10:45 Eastern. But you should probably tune into the whole thing, because being a vet myself, the Wounded Warrior Project is one of those things that's near and dear to my heart. And all of the proceeds are going to it. Even like if you super chat during the live stream, Two Crazy Ketos actually end up making up the difference. At least they did in the past. They made up the difference that YouTube takes. I don't know if they've got some kind of a deal going with YouTube this year, but you can watch their channel and their trailers and all that stuff, get all the information about that. I'll put a link to tomorrow's live stream in the description of this video, because I believe it's something everybody should watch. As you can see, I'm not out on the trail today. I'm just doing laps. I got a little bit of a late start, and it's Wednesday here, so it's church day, so I'm a little constrained for time for going over to the park and back. And I really think, since I'm doing the training with my backpack, that I should pretty much alternate days with the backpack. Walk one day without, and then one day with. Because I ended up doing quite a bit, as you saw in yesterday's video, which is today. I still can't get my head around that right sometimes. But I think because there's weight involved there, and it's in different places, distributed around my back and shoulders, that I need to build my back muscles up slowly, because that's one of my really, really problem spots for trying to heal with my spinal stenosis and everything else. My back's been giving me trouble for decades, and it is getting stronger, as you can see, but I want to take it slow and easy, make sure I don't suffer any setbacks from trying to do too much too fast. And I hope you saw yesterday morning, I had an interview on Ready, Set, Keto. If you haven't seen that yet, be sure and go back and watch that. I thought it went very well for my first interview. And as I showed in that video, if I'm sitting down and not out of breath from walking, I can run on at the mouth pretty quick. sometimes you have to rein me in to keep me from talking so much, because I do love the sound of my own voice. But anyway, let's jump right into this. I'll call this the beginner's guide to starting the carnivore diet. But you can call it tips and tricks, whatever you want to call it. The very first thing you have to do, see, I've got a lot of notes today. So I'm going to try and move as fast as I can through these because I don't want it to be a 10-hour video. It is very windy today, so if the wind noise gets too bad on the camera, I'll zap out the audio on this video and see if I can remember how to do a voiceover. I just don't know how this is going to turn out. But step one, you have to commit to it. Whether you tell yourself you're going to do 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, whatever it is, pick a time frame and stick to it. Give it a chance to work. Your body did not become inflamed and sick overnight. You can't expect to sit down at the table on your first day, eat a steak, and then 3 hours later go, well, Bob, he lied to me. He said I'd feel amazing eating this diet. Well, it doesn't happen that fast, folks. Some of us, if you're like me, have been getting sick for decades. Sicker and sicker and sicker. It takes a while to fix that. Not nearly as long as it took to make you sick, but it does take a while. Step number 2, eat until you are full. As Dr. Barry likes to say, eat until you are comfortably stuffed. So many of us, I was guilty of this as well. You know, over the course of our life, we've tried many different diets, and we've conditioned ourselves to, take our plate and put just so much food on it, and what's on our plate is what we're going to eat. And, we portion control without even thinking about it, because our entire lives, we've been told, eat less, move more. How's that worked out for you so far? If it's working for you, great. But I suspect if it was working for you, you wouldn't be here watching this video today. So eat until you're comfortably stuffed every time you sit down to eat. Start off with 3 meals a day if you can. In fact, the first couple of weeks, Steak and Butter Gal has in their program, they have a thing called priming, where you stuff yourself as hard as you can to the point of almost being sick. I don't know that I'm a big fan of that, but if you eat until you are comfortably stuffed, even if you're starting out on 3 meals a day, the biggest thing that will do is it will eliminate the snacking. And there's no right time to eat or wrong time to eat on this diet. Now, some people will still say, oh, you shouldn't eat within a couple hours of bedtime. But I'm not so sure that matters so much. So if you stop and think about it, a lion in the wild will kill himself an animal stuff himself silly on it. And then what does he do? Stay up 2 hours watching TV or run down to the gym, do some squats and some push-ups? No. He goes and lays down, takes a nap. So, in my opinion, I don't think it really matters when you eat. I will say, putting off breakfast is a really good idea. And that leads into intermittent fasting. We'll get into that in another video sometime later this week or weekend. I've already got some videos about that. You can go back and look at those. But I'm making this because I've got a lot of new subscribers again. I forgot to say welcome. If you're new to the channel, I'm glad you're here. If you're a returning subscriber, I'm also extremely glad you're here. You guys mean so much to me. You keep me motivated to keep out here doing these walks. But you know where breakfast is the most important meal of the day came from? The Kellogg's brothers that invented cornflakes. It was a marketing campaign. And it worked really well. Nowadays, people talk about breakfast being the most important meal of the day like it's absolute etched in stone fact. It was a marketing campaign, a very successful marketing campaign. So, as Dr. Sivas, I believe is how he says it, the carb addiction doc, what he says is our body naturally makes breakfast for us. Why do you want to add stuff to it? Because those of you that have been doing this for a while know all about the dawn effect. We've been sleeping, and when we first get up, if you check your blood sugar, when you first get up, it's probably as high as it's going to be all day. Because, just like when you start your car in the morning, you get that initial surge of power that gets it going. Well, the liver does the same thing for the body. It senses you waking up and says, okay, waking up, gonna need some fuel, boom. And it pushes out a big load of glucose into your system to give the organs that actually require glucose a chance to get up and get going. So no, breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. Now, when it comes to what you're eating, you should concentrate on the fattiest cuts of meat you can find. I personally do ruminant meats, mostly beef, but you get whatever you like best, whether that be cows, sheep, goats, deer. Those are all ruminants, which means they have a multiple chamber stomach, and that's where the magic happens. They eat the grass and other things that are undigestible to humans, and they turn them into beautiful fatty meat for us. And I just talked a few days ago to start off with a 1-to-1 ratio, which is where I think everybody should start, which means half your calories are coming from fat. And calorie is not a great word, because a calorie is a unit of heat. It doesn't really have any meaning in the diet. And I have to throw that in because I don't want Professor K coming after me for saying calorie. But we will just agree to call them calories here just because that's a convenient term that everybody understands. we don't want, what we do want is about half our calories coming from fat and half from protein. And the way to basically judge that is the 7/8 rule. If you look at the steak on your plate and it looks like about 1/8 of it is fat and 7/8 of it is the muscle meat, then you're about right. And then this is where you get to play with it a little bit. After 30 days or so, if you're going, man, I'm just not getting the results I thought I'd get, I would start by upping the fat. Either if you're on a first name basis with your butcher, ask them not to trim the fat on the meat you're buying so you get a little extra fat. Or if they're trimming it for other people, have them save it for you. And you can just take that fat and fry it up, throw it in the deep fryer, render it down however you want, and just eat crispy chunks of fat to add fat to your diet. But yeah, and then if you're still not doing well, go ahead and try a little more protein. Under no circumstances, dump carbs down your throat. And I'll talk definitely in part 2 of this video, which is going to be tomorrow, after I talk about how to eat and what to eat today. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about what not to eat and how to avoid them. So be sure and tune in for part 2 tomorrow as well. But yeah, so eat fatty meat. And while we're on that subject, eat the meat that you can afford. Now, as Dr. Berry would say, and I've said many times as well, if you can afford grass-fed, grass-finished, hand-massaged steaks at every meal, then go ahead and eat that. That is the very best way to do carnivore. But in looking at the chemical compositions and the nutrient factors that you get out of each of these different foods, yes, the cheapest ground beef you can buy has much less, much being kind of a wishy-washy relative term. I'll just say it has less nutrient, but the ground beef is, depending on who you listen to, somewhere between 10 to 12% less in nutrients than the, I just hit a button, make sure I didn't, okay, it's still recording. Had that problem yesterday. I think I figured out how that one video got messed up. There's a button on this selfie stick that activates the camera on this thing. And I think my thumb accidentally shut it off the other day. But you have to judge for yourself if spending that much extra on the grass-fed, grass-finished is worth it to you. My guess is if you're just starting out and you're on a limited budget like I am, if you decide to go the grass-finished route, you're probably only going to be able to afford to eat 2 or 3 times a month, and you're going to have to fast the rest of the month. And that's no good. So eat what you can afford. I'm here as living proof. I do buy the occasional roast when it's on sale, and I just ordered some more roasts from Walmart. I'm going to pick up tomorrow because they were still on sale at about $5.50 a pound, which is a pretty amazing price. And I got another 10-pound tube of ground beef ordered, which I'll break up into 5 or 6 meals. I don't actually measure it out and weigh it. I just judge about 1.5 to 2 pounds a chunk, slice it up, and throw it in freezer bags. But that log worked out to like $2.89 a pound, buying it in the 10-pound log. So, but I eat Spam, I eat potted meat, I eat hot dogs, I eat bologna, I eat all that stuff. Is it the best for me? No. Am I probably going to have to cut that out, as I'm now within 40 or 50 pounds of goal? I probably am going to have to clean things up just a little bit. But those are what I like to call 10% problems. 90% of your carnivore journey can be accomplished just by eating meat, adding salt, and drinking water. Worry about the 10% problems when it's time to worry about the 10% problems. There's no reason to stress over all the little things, because I mean, if you're watching this channel, you've probably watched many carnivore, ketovore, keto, low carb channels, and you're starting to get confused by all the options and the macro counting and everything else they're talking about. I totally understand. But all the things they're talking about are 10% problems. Don't worry about the 10% problems till it's time. And next, let's talk about how to transition. Now, the correct way to do this is to slowly increase the amount of animal product you're eating and slowly decrease the amount of other foods you're eating to give your gut microbiome a chance to adjust. And this adjustment should happen depending on how bad your diet has been up to this point. This adjustment should happen over, I'm guessing, 2 to 4 weeks at least. It would take as much time as you need. Or you can do it the Bob method. One day I ate a standard American diet. The next day, I jumped in with both feet. Now, if I had known as much then as I know now, I probably would have spent a little time in transition, maybe. But transitioning helps lessen the impact of what's known as the keto flu. And the keto flu happens because when you change your diet from what you've been eating to something you haven't been eating, regardless of where you're changing it to or from, even if you're changing back from carnivore diet to a standard American diet, which we like to refer to as a SAD diet, you're going to upset your microbiome, which is all the little bacteria that live down in your gut, because they have adapted to certain types of food, and that's what they're expecting. And when you upset your microbiome, you're probably going to have some diarrhea. Yes, I said diarrhea. We're all adults here. We can talk about this. In my case, as I have said several times in the past few videos, mine was urgent and explosive. I don't remember exactly. That lasted 5 to 7 days. Oh, my nose is running just a little bit. Probably because it's a little chilly out here today. I maybe should have put a jacket on. But I know once I get moving, I get hot. And even though it's only about 63 degrees out today and very windy, I can feel a sweat breaking out all over my body, which is good. Sweating is not something to be afraid of. It's good for you. Not for weight loss, for other things. We'll talk about that in another video. But there's nothing actually dangerous from all the research I've been able to do. There's nothing dangerous about just jumping right in with both feet. It's just going to be a lot more uncomfortable than it has to be. So you can make up your own mind about how you want to transition. And now let's briefly talk about salt. Salt and electrolytes on a carnivore diet. You want to make sure you're getting enough, because the way those are stored in the body, it works very different when you're on a carnivore diet than a standard American diet, because you've been holding on to inappropriate inflammation. And when you first start this way of eating, your body starts to dump that inappropriate inflammation. It's basically water weight. And you could lose anywhere from 5 to 30 pounds in the first couple, 3 weeks, because your body just starts dumping the inflammation. Well, just the way water works in the body, when that inappropriate inflammation as water starts dumping out of your body, it takes your salt and your electrolytes with it. So make sure you're salting your meat to taste. If you get a big steak or a big pile of ground beef or whatever it is you're eating ready, by the way, you're probably not going to have to add any salt to spam it. It's got plenty of salt in it. But if you taste your meat and you're like, man, that could use some salt, even though I dumped a whole handful of salt on it, then go ahead and add some more salt. Your body has a very good system for telling you how much salt you need. And that's in the form of the salt receptors on your tongue. If you salt it up and when you take a bite you go, whoa, that's really salty. That's probably a bit too much. Go ahead and cut it back the next time. But if you taste something and your brain thinks that could use a little more salt, go ahead and do that. Because your body needs salt to operate on, as well as other electrolytes and minerals. And until you figure out that you are getting enough through the foods you eat, this is the only supplement I'm going to talk about today. Keto Chow has a daily mineral drop, And then drink LMNT, drink Element. Has an electrolyte powder that you can add to water. I would start with using some of that when you're first getting started. After that initial whoosh of all the inflammation out of your body, you want to add some back in just to start with, and then slowly reduce it and see how you feel. If you start to feel draggy after the initial transformation phase, if you start to feel draggy and think, man, I just don't have the energy I thought I'd have, go ahead and add some electrolytes back in. And you'll eventually find that happy medium. And it will change. Once you find that happy medium, when you're down 35 pounds, that happy medium will change when you're down 50 pounds, down 75, or like me, down 115. What your body wants will change. Listen to your body. It'll give you real good signals. So that's what I got to say about salt and electrolytes. Salt to taste. Add some electrolytes early. And then taper it off until you find the happy medium for you. Now you're going to make some mistakes along the way. You're going to probably fall off the wagon and eat a little something you shouldn't eat, or whatever it is. Don't beat yourself up over this, folks. Let's say you're really hungry one day and you've been living on Spam. So instead of 1 can of Spam, you have 2 or even 3 cans of Spam that day. Well, 3 cans of Spam is going to be enough carbs to put you over the ideal level for a ketogenic style diet. And make no mistake, carnivore is just a subset of the ketogenic diet. And what I'm doing, Lion Diet, which is basically all beef, salt, and water, is a subset of that. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it, because as I always say, there's no one true way to do this. If having a cup of coffee or 10 helps keep you on your diet the rest of the day. I even have one commenter that says, I still have a little piece of dark chocolate as my dessert when I eat my meal. Is that ideal? No. But if it keeps you from making all the other mistakes that can be made, and you're still getting the results you want, I believe that's perfectly fine. I get a little frustrated with people that get all dogmatic and say, oh, that's not keto, or that's not carnivore, or you can't eat that. Don't tell me I can't eat something. I'm a grown adult. I can do whatever I want. It may not be the best thing for me, but I can certainly do it. One of the things I've talked about quite a bit on this channel to help keep you from slipping is, why are you doing this? What gets you out of bed in the morning and makes you want to eat like this instead of just, bellying up to that bowl of cornflakes and chomping it down? Why are you doing this? For some people, just to lose weight and get a little healthier is going to be enough of a motivation for a while. I don't think that's specific enough, though. For me, my first motivation was, this diet's supposed to make my arthritis feel better. And I got that very quickly. For you, it might be you want to play with grandkids, you want to take your dog for a walk, you want to be able to go to the parking lot of that state park and walk the half mile back in to see the waterfall. Whatever your why is, why you're doing this, what gets you out of bed in the morning, that's what you need to keep firmly in place in front of you at all times. Think of that several times a day, especially if you're being tempted to eat something you shouldn't. And that's another one of my tricks with salt. If you're being tempted by something, put just a pinch of salt on your tongue. It will usually, I did say usually, help take that craving away. Another trick you can do is, if you think you're hungry for a snack of some sort, or you want to run down to the corner store and grab a package of Twinkies or whatever it is that is your jam of choice, divert yourself by doing something else. Go for a walk, read a book, watch something on Netflix, whatever it is that you like to do. And as soon as you've got your attention diverted away from the thoughts of that snack, most of the time those cravings will go away. But if you do slip up and say, man, I just got to have that pack of Twinkies. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but if you give in to it, don't beat yourself up over it. Just get right back on the horse and get back to eating the way you should. Let it just fly out of your mind. Don't give it another thought. Because beating yourself up over something that happened in the past, it's never going to be helpful. No matter how much you think it's going to be helpful, it's not. It's just going to create a negative roller coaster in your mind. So just let it go and move on. You'll get there. Some people, it takes longer than others. Watching other people's stories, I can tell you that I am the exception rather than the rule. Most people that jump right in with both feet after 6 months have had a slip up or two or 3 or 4. I have not. Oh, I hear a really loud something coming. Yeah, here he comes. Logging truck going way too fast. I'm glad I don't walk out there anymore. But I think I probably would have slipped up if I hadn't had such amazing results so quickly. It took a while for me to feel like I wanted to get up and walk around. I mean, I started in early May and it was September 1st when I started walking. But the big thing I noticed when I first started this way of eating, right there is about as good of a fist as I could make with my hands. They were so locked up. And now I can still feel they're stiff, although they're not as stiff as the last time I did that test. But I got those results very quickly. And I think that is what helped keep me on track. And as soon as you find some kind of improvement, whether it be you lost a half an inch off your waist, or your knees don't feel quite as bad as they did yesterday, or whatever that thing is that's gotten better, hang on to that and remember it every day, and that will help keep you from falling off the wagon. But if you do fall off the wagon, like I said, don't beat yourself up. It's not the end of the world. Heck, you just spent the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years of your life dumping crap down your throat. One little slip up is not going to hurt you. Well, it's not going to be ideal, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not going to hurt you. As long as you get back up and do it again. The only thing that my dietitian at my doctor's office ever said that I will repeat to you now, because it's the one thing she said that still holds water and makes sense. Cheating is okay as long as it remains the cheat and does not become the habit. And of all the stupid crap she said, that's one of those things that's actually pretty good. So anyway, I think I've covered the basics pretty well on how to get started on the carnivore diet. Let me take another quick look at my note sheet just to see if I've forgotten anything. Yep, that pretty much covers it. Oh, yeah. Another thing that'll help you keep from slipping up, if you got a pantry full of junk, just throw it all away. You don't need it. Knowing that you've got a package of cookies in the pantry is a really easy way to justify eating those cookies. It's like, well, I bought them. I don't want to waste them. Now, if you're not single like me and you have other people living in your house and they're going to eat the cookies, tell them to go ahead and take them out of the pantry and store them someplace else where you don't normally go. Like put the cookies in their nightstand or put them in their closet. Take all that junk food and move it out of the pantry. Some of you that are still cooking for your spouse and your kids, that's not going to be possible until you get them on board with this way of eating. But do the best you can with that. Now I'm going to record a couple of laps in fast time with some music. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about the right way to get off your blood pressure medicine. Cue the music. Okay, cut the music. I hadn't realized how much I was running off the mouth there. So just remember to properly start the carnivore diet or properly continue the carnivore diet, commit to it for 30, 60, 90 days or longer, you cannot expect all the damage you've done to your body over the last 20, 30, 40 years to heal itself overnight. You've got to give yourself a chance. Time to heal. Oh, okay, guys. I gotta sit down for a minute. I hadn't realized how long I was talking. In the interest of this not being an hour-plus long video, I'm going to end it here. To the person that had the blood pressure med question, I will move this discussion to the very start of tomorrow's video. If you need that information sooner, my email address is on the About tab on my channel page. Feel free to send me an email, and I will happily discuss it with you back and forth via email. And even if you do that, I'm still going to make the video tomorrow about that, because I think it's important information for more than just the person that asked the question. Normally when I get a question like that, there's, at least a half dozen to a dozen others that go, yeah, I need that information too. So that's what I'm going to do. I apologize for not getting to it today, but in the before music section of this video, I talked for almost 43 minutes, which is already a really long video. So with that in mind, I'm going to tell you, don't forget to get out there, be 1% better today. There'll be a video pop up over here that shows you the entire September challenge, which is me walking from the start. Another video over here you've never seen before. Have a great day, folks. I'll see you tomorrow.